Hey folks, welcome back. Well, it's that time again. You know what I mean. It's happening again and there is nothing you can do about it. It's time that we talked about another goddamn Sonic game. But hey, don't fret too much. We'll get through all the Sonic games eventually. There's only, Sonic Speed. Or at least that's what he claims. This is one fast hedgehog. Sonic and his gang of speedy homies have been touching the hearts of millions of kids and adults on lists for the past 25 years. And one of those adults is me. Not to suggest that I'm on a list, that's not what I... You folks all know that I'm a big fan of Sonic. Even through all the bullshit and garbage games in recent years, I've always maintained a fondness for the little blue guy. That said though, I can't think of a video game franchise that has had more ups and downs than Sonic. Sure, Mario and Zelda have had some games that are generally considered to be worse than others, but then you have Sonic, where it seems like the games are either absolute bangers, critically acclaimed modern classics, or unacceptable Bush League pieces of utter and complete garbage. For every Sonic Mania, there's a Sonic and the Black Knight, and one of the games that is generally considered to be a banger is Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 is considered by many to be the best 3D Sonic game. Much like many of my fellow millennial Zoomer cuspers, I grew up with the GameCube port of the game, which was called Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and it was different in that but for the purpose of this video, I'm looking at the original version of the game. None of that battle nonsense. That said, I'm gonna be playing it on PC. Actually, the PC version is garbage. If you wanted the true Sonic Adventure 2 experience, you would play it on the Dreamcast. Sorry, I forgot that I was made of money. I should have thought about how easy it would have been to throw together several $100s to buy a Dreamcast and a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 to get delivered to my 2-bedroom basement apartment. Piss off. Sonic Adventure 2, baby. Originally released in 2001 for the Sega Dreamcast, it's since gone down as an all-time classic and is regarded by many to be the best game on the console. It is, of course, a sequel to Sonic Adventure. Now you may wonder why I'm reviewing Sonic Adventure 2 before the original adventure. And the reason for that is, A, I never played that one as a kid, and B, people get very mad at me when I bring up Sonic Adventure, so I have to give myself some time to mentally prepare for the comments. Before we start the game, we get to choose between two different storylines. Hero and Dark. I guess they were hesitant to call Shadow or Rouge evil, since every Sonic character is capable of, and will probably experience a redemption arc at one point or another. Except for Dr. Eggman, of course, he's just kind of always a bastard. So anyway, let's start with Hero. We get a cutscene of a helicopter where Sonic is presumably being transported somewhere since he's a criminal wanted by the federal government. We don't see it, but he presumably kills everyone on board. It's possible that he just knocks them out, but I like to imagine that Sonic kills them.
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here.
There he is. There's our hero. Sonic once again establishes himself as the coolest guy of all time by jumping out of a moving helicopter and effortlessly landing on a snowboard into the streets of San Francisco, Central City. And of course, you all know this level is accompanied by one of the best theme songs in any video game ever, Escape from the City. It's your standard 3D Sonic gameplay, spin dashing, speed segments, air dashing, etc. One thing you might notice is that Sonic has really weird looking shoes on. It's pretty noticeable when you take into account that over the years, Sonic has gone through a pretty considerable design change. But the one thing that has remained constant throughout the years are his shoes. Now you might think, oh well, maybe they were just trying out something new and it didn't work, so they scrapped it in the future. But I am pleased to say that there is a much more interesting explanation for Sonic's shoes than you might think. You see, this was a result of a partnership with Soap, a brand of shoes designed for grinding on rails. These were real shoes that had like a piece of plastic in the middle with an indent so that you could grind on rails. I'm not making this up. Funny enough, rail grinding would go on to become synonymous with Sonic, while nobody knows what the f*** Soap shoes are anymore. As expected, they turned out to be a fad, kinda like Heelys. The difference being that Heelys were sick. Anyway, enough about shoes. After you beat the level, you fight a military mech in a boss fight, and then Sonic is confronted by none other than Shadow the Hedgehog, believe it or not, making his first appearance ever. And he's also got soap shoes on, but I promise I'm done talking about that. Turns out the reason that the government wants to arrest Sonic is because Shadow committed a bunch of crimes and they mistook him for Sonic since, they look exactly the same. Sonic and Shadow almost fight, but then Shadow uses Chaos Control or whatever and teleports away, framing Sonic in the process while the police show up. Meanwhile, in Egypt, I assume, Knuckles is arguing with another new character, Rouge the Bat, about who is the true owner of the Master Emerald, a giant Chaos Emerald that keeps the other ones under control or something. Dr. Eggman tries to steal it, so in response, Knux jumps up in the air and smashes it into a million pieces. And then we get our first Knuckles stage. These are considerably different from Sonic's levels because they're not linear platforming stages, they're more like collectathon levels. You're set loose in this big open level looking for shards of the Master Emerald. Each level has 3 hidden around. You have little indicators at the bottom of the screen that blink faster depending on how warm you are. You also have these little floating TVs around which you can approach and activate for an often very vague hint. But none of that matters because the really important thing about the Knuckles stages is the music. You know, people give these levels a lot of shit. I've heard people say that playing as Knuckles is the worst part about Sonic Adventure 2. But you know what? Maybe I just chronically like collectathons, but I really like these stages. I mean, sure, sometimes the emeralds are really hard to find and you're running around for like an hour like, where are the fucking emeralds? Especially the Rouge level where you have a 5-minute time limit. That was a bit of a nightmare, I will admit. But I don't know, I've always enjoyed playing as Knuckles. As a kid, these were the levels I would replay the most. Although it is very possible that I'm biased since, you know, Pumpkin Hill is a Knuckles level. We then cut to Tails flying around in his plane and just...
There's no mistake about it. This must be the island. It's a secret military base that is reinforced and super strong.
Look, I know I went on a whole thing in my Resident Evil video about voice acting and how it was more expensive back in the day and stuff like that, but come on, man. Overall, this game doesn't have great voice acting, but in general, it's not terrible. It's more than passable. But Tails, like, who is this? Which member of the localization team brought their 8-year-old son in to play Tails? Like, just get a voice actor who can imitate a kid. They exist. Anyway, now we get to play as Tails. Hallelujah. Tails is on his way to Prison Island to save Sonic when he spots Dr. Eggman seemingly about to do something bad to Amy. So you gotta fight Eggman, and then we get into the Tails levels. This is another reason that it upsets me when people say that the Knuckles and Rouge stages are the worst part of this game, because the Tails and Eggman stages are horrible. They take the form of like the shittiest mech game you've ever played. All you do in each stage is platform and hold down B to aim your cannon, and while you hold down B, you lock onto targets, and you're released to shoot them. Also, your cannon makes this noise. So you'll be listening to that sound for the majority of each stage. Yeah, not a fan. Moving on. So the game from there pretty much follows that format. You play a Sonic level, a Knuckles level, and then you suffer through a Tails level. Although not always in that order. But for the purpose of this video, I want to stray away from my usual format and outline the whole story of Sonic Adventure 2. Because the plot... it's, let me put it this way. Imagine that you went to the movie theater to see a Backyardigans movie, and the animation was normal, the character design was the same, but the movie had the plot of Independence Day. That's Sonic Adventure 2 in a nutshell. Before I get into the story at length, let's just address the cat in the room. The cutscenes in this game are pretty insane looking for a couple of reasons. First, the music is way too loud. Most of the time you can't even hear what the characters are saying.
The Master Emerald contains special powers
What?
that neutralize the energy.
Can we
of
maybe
Chaos
turn the
Emeralds.
music down a little? I
That
can't hear
makes it
Knuckles. Second, the lip sync is horrendous, obviously because these cutscenes were made to match up with the Japanese dialogue. So, you know, I can only blame them so much. The localization team worked with what they were given. But like, come on, Sega, you guys really couldn't have been to slightly tweak the cutscenes for the English version so that the characters aren't literally talking over each other?
Comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be
I'll
my
make you
friend.
eat those words.
For God's sake, man, throw your American localization team a bone. You could have just let them do like skip through cutscenes so that the character would be able to finish their fucking sentence before the other character replies. Anyway, Amy breaks Sonic out of Guantanamo Bay and then he escapes via space shuttle. We have yet another confrontation with Shadow in the jungle and fight him, after which it's revealed that the island is set to explode in 8 minutes. Thankfully, Sonic is very fast. We then get a cutscene of Dr. Eggman announcing to the people of Earth his intent to take over the world, after which a meteor explodes into the shape of his face. The nose then opens up, firing a laser that destroys half of the goddamn moon. I'm no astronomer, but I think the moon is pretty... I think it's pretty... like, I think we need that for something. Sonic et al. Are watching Eggman's home movie and...
But how did he manage to harness all that energy?
Shut up, Tails. They figure it's gotta be the Chaos Emeralds. Thankfully, Tails has invented his own fucking knockoff Chaos Emerald, which he says that he can use to find the other ones. Unfortunately, Tails' cubic zirconium Chaos Emerald isn't working, which he figures is because Dr. Eggman took the other emeralds into outer space. Knuckles also emerges from a sewer and reunites with the gang. He's been off doing his own shit the whole time. Anyway, then Tails and Sonic decide that they need to break into the President of the United States limo so that they can track Eggman. Sure enough, Eggman is on a space station, so the boys, and Amy, have to find a way to get up there. Knuckles lets them know that he saw Eggman go into a pyramid where he has a secret base, so they head on in. Knuckles fights a ghost, Sonic fights a giant sand golem, and then they run into a space shuttle as it's launching out of the pyramid. The space shuttle opens up, releasing all the Master Emeralds into space, and Knuckles is understandably pissed.
Landing soon.
The hatch doors are
Don't
open.
sweat it, Knuckles. The only thing in the cargo bay are those
What do you
Master
mean, don't
Emeralds.
sweat it?
Yeah, what do you mean, don't sweat it, Sonic? These are the Chaos Emeralds we're talking about here. Don't you remember like a few hours ago when Dr. Eggman used them to destroy the moon? They crash land and then infiltrate Dr. Eggman's space face base. Knuckles and Rouge fight each other.
Those belong to me.
What in the world?
Later, Dr. Eggman is holding Amy at gunpoint in an effort to get them to cough up the last Chaos Emerald. However, it was all a trick. Eggman knew all along that the emerald that Tails had was a fake, and he was just bluffing so that he could get Sonic into position so that he can launch him into the atmosphere. Tails, in a rage after having watched his best friend be murdered via space, defeats Eggman. Surprise, Sonic's not dead, and he and Shadow have a final showdown, and that's the end of the hero story. The Dark story is basically the same, but from the perspective of Eggman, Rouge, and Shadow. Rouge is a government spy tasked with finding out everything she can about Shadow since he is the ultimate life form. And Shadow has this whole backstory involving like a brother-sister relationship with Dr. Eggman's sister Maria. Also, one thing you really learn through the Dark campaign is that every Sonic character is a fucking idiot, because everyone mistakes Shadow for Sonic. Like, for real, Dr. Eggman does it, Amy does it. There's a point where the news is like breaking news. Bank robbery revealed to be perpetrated by the internationally famous hero Sonic the Hedgehog. And they show a picture of Shadow on the screen. Like, are we looking at the same...
Yo, Josh! Yo, Josh! Josh! Oh, I'm so sorry. You look just like my coworker.
That's okay.
Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
It's insanity how much you look like him.
After you beat both storylines, you get one final level where it's revealed that Dr. Gerald Robotnik designed the space colony to crash into the Earth, destroying the planet. So the whole gang groups together to prevent that. Even Dr. Eggman, for some reason. Sonic and Shadow use the Chaos Emeralds to defeat the giant space monster, and all is well. Except that for that Shadow falls into the atmosphere, but it's fine, I'm pretty sure he comes back. And that's the story. It truly could not possibly be more insane. I feel like I couldn't do a video about Sonic Adventure 2 without pointing out how utterly absurd the plot is. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the other stuff. So I already talked a bit about the gameplay. Each storyline is broken into threes. The Sonic and Shadow levels are your standard 3D Sonic levels, big long linear obstacle courses with speed segments and air dashing and rail grinding. And then there's the Tails and Dr. Eggman levels where you control each character in a mech and shoot enemies and blow up obstacles and stuff. And the Knuckles / Rouge stages where you fly around looking for emerald shards, which are either buried in the ground or walls, or just hidden around in various places. The Sonic and Shadow levels are a lot of fun. As usual, air dashing feels really good. It doesn't work quite as well as it would go on to in future games, but this was only their second try. Rail grinding is pretty substanceless gameplay-wise, you just kind of watch it happen, but regardless, it looks cool and it feels satisfying. It suffers from a lot of the same bullshit that most 3D Sonic games do. Depth perception can be annoying, you'll occasionally be running at Mach speed and an obstacle will drop in front of you. Sometimes you'll go careening off the level during a speed segment. But you know what, I could be wrong, but it kind of feels like it suffers a little less from shit like that than some other 3D Sonic games do. I don't find find myself as frequently ripping my hair out because I kept dying in stupid ways that were outside of my control. I mean, it happened, but it could have been a lot more frequent. I really like the Knuckles and Rouge stages. They feel very relaxing and you can just kind of run around and explore. There are a few minor issues. The hints pop up on screen for not nearly long enough and you only get 3 for each emerald piece. You can't even replay them if you weren't able to read it in time. But I mean, that's really the only beef I have. Like I said, I really enjoy these levels. Tails and Dr. Eggman can fuck off. Seriously, I dread playing these stages. I don't know why, but they're just so boring. The characters move really slow, their jump sucks, the combat isn't fun, I just don't like it, it's not for me. As you go through the levels, you find upgrades for the characters that let them do more stuff like break the metal crates, air dash through rings, breathe underwater, etc. One thing that's kind of lame about the upgrades though is that the characters in the hero campaign get visual changes. Sonic gets lights in his shoes and a bracelet that lets him do a stronger spin dash, and Knuckles gets metal claws and a mouthpiece that lets him breathe underwater. But the Dark campaign characters get nothing, they look exactly the same throughout. It makes me think that the game might have been a little bit rushed. The Sonic 10th anniversary thing in the credits is usually a bad sign when it comes to Sonic. But then again, it could have been a lot worse. This game isn't really buggy at all, it's really solid. That said though, another not so great thing about this game is the boss fights. They're mostly pretty lame. It's like, wait for a flying mech to stop and then hit it, air dash at Shadow when he stops moving, shoot Eggman before he can shoot you. There are a few fun boss fights. Fighting against the big ghost as Knuckles is good, and the big sand golem as Sonic is kinda substanceless, but flashy enough to be fun. But I mean, overall, the boss fights tend to be either annoying or too easy. Another thing I would be a bit of an idiot to not talk about is the Chao Garden, the best part of the game. Yeah, so I feel like if you talk about Sonic Adventure 2, there will always be one guy being like, oh yeah, the game was whatever, but raising the Chows was so much fun, bro. For those of you who aren't mega Sonic fans like me, Chows are these cute little blue guys who have floating balls over their head. Basically, every level of this game has 3 crates hidden around that look like this. If you break it open, you get a key which allows you to go to the Chao Garden once you've completed the stage. You start out with 2 eggs, each of which has a Chao inside of it, and it's your task to raise them nice and strong. The enemies in this game drop these little energy vial things, which you can bring to give to your Chao to improve their stats. And there are also animals walking around each level which also raise their stats. Plus, when you give a Chao an animal to play with, they'll start showing physical characteristics of that animal. Like if you give them a gorilla, they'll get a unibrow. These little demon guys will give them a little wispy ghost tail instead of legs. If you give them a bunny, they'll get bunny ears, etc. It's cute. They'll also change color based on which trio of characters you choose to nurture it with. If you're nice to a Chao as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, the Chao will turn white and become more angelic looking. Whereas if you're nice to them as Shadow, Rouge, and Dr. Eggman, they'll turn dark and fiendish. One very important thing to point out is that when Dr. Eggman pets the Chao, he says, "Yosh." I also could be wrong about this, but I think this also affects their personality. The angelic one I raised was always very cheery and bubbly, whereas the dark one was lazy and grumpy. Whenever you picked him up, he would get a little annoyed spiral above his head. Now, what's the point of raising Chaos? Well, there isn't really any. You can enter your Chows in mini-games if you want, but other than that, it's mostly just a fun little parenting simulator kind of deal. I know I started dismissive, but I gotta be honest, I really like raising the Chows in this game. Like, look at how fucking cute they are, man. You give them a big fruit and their little floating head ball thing turns into a heart and they sit down like a baby to munch on it. When they start out, if they go into the water, they struggle and you kind of have to go take them out. But as you improve their swimming stat, you'll actually start to find them in the water on their own accord swimming. And like I said, they even have their own unique personalities. I'm constantly having to wake up my dark one to give him stuff because he's constantly falling asleep. He's a little asshole and I love him with all of my heart. I don't know, like I said, there's not a ton of point to raising Chows, but there's something about it that makes me want to go find the Chao Garden key in every level. Now look, my review of this game has been very up and down. For every Knuckles level fun, there's what middle schooler is responsible for writing this plotline. But you know what, I rather like this game despite all its flaws. So what do you say we enter the positivity zone? Make sure you got your positivity water wings. I don't know. This game has its flaws, yes, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't a darn tootin' good time, partner. The Sonic and Shadow levels are very fun. The 3D Sonic formula has definitely improved over the years, but I don't think this game has aged as poorly as a lot of people say it has. If anything, the controls are just a little weird. The camera is a little bit difficult to control, which I think is a symptom of the Dreamcast only having one stick. One thing that is kind of weird is how the game uses one button for everything. B interacts with stuff, digs, rolls, shoots, spin dashes. It's weird because the Dreamcast controller had 4 face buttons. I don't know why exactly it didn't make better use of the buttons. Honestly, because of that, I think this game could benefit from a full-on HD remake. Now look, I know Sonic Team isn't exactly renowned for their remakes, but if it was handled well, a remake of this game with full camera control, air dashes more akin to Sonic Generations with the target that pops up, better button mapping, and maybe more theoretical safety nets to prevent you from launching off the stage as often, and, you know, better cutscenes. A remake of Sonic Adventure 2 would be fucking awesome. But enough dicking around, okay? We all know what you came here for. Say whatever you want about Sonic Adventure 2. It hasn't aged well, the gameplay sucks, whatever. But if you dare come up to me and say some stupid shit like, the music in Sonic Adventure 2 is bad, so help me God, I will come to your Sonic Adventure 2 has, in my opinion, one of the best soundtracks of any video game ever made. And when people think about 3D Sonic soundtracks, I think they usually think of rock music like Escape from the City, Live and Learn, Won't Stop, Just Go. But I think it's worth pointing out that this soundtrack has a pretty diverse mix of different kinds of music. Like I said before, every Knuckles stage is accompanied by a really funky hip-hop song.
Let's take a dive in aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride.
And Rouge's levels are always set to cool R&B tracks. Like, yeah, the vocals are pretty cheesy, but god, they're such jams. And they also perfectly lend themselves to the type of levels you're playing. Unlike Sonic and Shadows stages, where it's full speed dash to the end of the level, and Tails and Robotnik stages, where it's a slow, boring jaunt to the end of the stage, Knuckles and Rouge have these big open areas where you can just kind of spend your time flying around looking for Chaos Emeralds. I feel like these slow, chill tracks add to the whole relaxing nature of what you're doing. But then on the other hand, Sonic's levels are always fast-paced rock jams, but they don't always stay in the realm of straightforward rock. Like, listen to Metal Harbor. Those trumpets, man. Sonic Adventure 2, more like Skonic Adventure 2. You know, with all that said, I still really like Sonic Adventure 2. Has it aged perfectly? No. Is it the best 3D Sonic game ever made? What, are you stupid? Regardless of its flaws, though, it has a lot to love about it, and it'll always have a special place in my heart. And that's a whole lot of nonsense about a video game that came out on a console nobody bought, that was released during a year that nobody remembers. Now, I know what you're all gonna say. Oh, Ben, you only like this game because you grew up with it. Yeah, so? You're gonna sit there and act like you don't also do that? And I'm the immature one?